Welcome back to the Morning Brief. We switch gears now to the issue of the heat. In Nigerian parlance, people used to say things like, this is not dissing, okay? But this heat is hitting. That's the only way I can express it. Nigerians understand what I'm saying when we say so. But basically, we're saying that the heat is becoming quite unbearable, which is why we had to call the authorities and people who understand these things to come and explain to us why everywhere is this hot and what we need to do to keep safe at the end of the day, because it's not funny. The economy is biting harder. We can't add nature's wrath on it and not know what to do at the end of the day. So we've been joined from our Abuja studio by the Director of Weather Forecast Services of NIMET, Professor Vincent Welly. Professor Welly, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Prof, I know this question may sound funny, but I had to ask it. Are you feeling the heat?
Yeah, of course. The heat is intense, and just as we have noted, is above normal. You agree with me that even when you put on the fan in your room, the air is hot. And that has affected a lot of things. In fact, I noticed within yesterday that even the fridge does not cool substances you put into them as it used to be. And so this is because of the extreme heat that we're experiencing. For us, it's called, heat wave. But we pray it doesn't get to the extent where it will lead to heat strokes and all of that, where people begin to get highly dehydrated and they'll be rushed to hospital. So we don't have hospital emergencies. And that is why we issued this alert to inform Nigerians that what we're observing, is above normal. And that people should take precautionary measures to ensure that they are not vulnerable, especially within the hours of 12, 1 to 3, when the intensity of the sun is highest. And so people must begin to, ensure that they do not get highly dehydrated, because as it is, the body is always wanting to be in thermal equilibrium, with the environment. And because of that, as the heat is increasing, the system will be losing water because the body wants to be in thermal equilibrium, and which will never be. And because of that, trying to do that will remove so much water from the system. And of course, when enough water is not in the system, the organs of the body that needs them for proper functioning will be affected, and that will lead to heat strokes and all of that. And for us as climate scientists, we have noted that last year has been released by World Meteorological Organization is the warmest in the history of the entire Earth. And that year is a year of El Nino. And when El Nino occurs, it comes with so much heat. And when I talk about El Nino, a lot of people may not understand, but El Nino is a Spanish word for a sudden change in temperature around the Pacific Ocean, especially in Peru. And so when El Nino occurs, it causes a lot of teleconnections, arising from the interactions with the several atmospheric ocean oscillations, like the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. We have the Julian oscillation. We also have the Indian Ocean Dipole. So these three circulation systems associated with ocean atmosphere circulation affects the weather patterns of the entire Earth. And that is what we're experiencing right now.
So, Prof, we checked the weather forecast and we're getting 30 degrees for Lagos, though it feels more like 39 degrees, if you ask me. I wonder why that is. Again, we're low emitters in this part of the world, but that is not to say that we shouldn't take responsibility. So I wonder if you can also talk to us about what we're doing wrong that is contributing to this version of global warming that we're experiencing, and how we can adjust our conduct.
Yeah, thank you very much. There are a lot of things that are associated with this warming. Of course, we have always noted that the issue of global warming is real, the issue of climate change is real, and people are beginning to feel what we've been saying for some years back now. And of course, the COP28 that held recently is in connection to what we're talking about, the issue of climate change. We have used fossil fuel to the extent that we have emitted so much greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And these greenhouse gases like nitrous oxide, methane, carbon dioxide, among others, have the capacity to allow heat to penetrate to the Earth's surface and will not allow it to escape, sending the heat back in what we call counter-irradiation back to the Earth's surface, warming the entire Earth's surface. And so what we must do is to seek for alternative sources of energy instead of carbon-induced sources, which will lead to higher emissions of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Two, we must begin to look at proper urban planning strategies to ensure that the issue of what we also call urban heat islands do not occur, especially in the urban centers. We must begin to look at climate resilient infrastructures to be put in place so that this heat can be taken care of. And so we must of course, we are in an energy transition period all over the world, and most countries have set agenda on when to phase out the use of fossil fuel to drive their cars, to use in different machineries and industrial plants and all of that. So we must begin to plan as a nation, to begin to shift away from carbon-induced energy sources to sustainable energy sources like gas, like solar, of course, which we have not explored so much in this country. I'm thinking that there's need for an emergency, in the area of sustainable energy. Right. That for every building to be built in an urban center or anywhere in Nigeria, it must have solar panels to power those buildings, so that people will begin, to transit to those kind of things. And so, as a nation, we should begin to think of what we can do in this direction, and it's doable, if you ask me.
Indeed, and there's a lot of conversation around that, but as we've seen, very little action compared to all of the meetings, the COPs and the rest. This situation may have been more bearable if we had stable power supply, and you may have caught the conversation we had earlier. This heat wave chose the wrongest time to come. It may have, maybe if we had some sort of dialogue, we'll have told you, okay, come at a time when we'll have stable power supply. But it's the environment. You can never predict and have a handle on all of these things. And when you said that, this heat wave will persist, because I've seen the release from NIMET, that this will persist for more days. And I'm wondering, heat wave, you said so far it has not become heat stroke. And that is a fear that it might even get worse. And let's look at the heat map, which NIMET put out just yesterday. And I'm seeing everywhere in Nigeria is either it is red, orange, there's no green. Green, by the way, means low risk. But everywhere, it's either it is red, orange, or yellow. And it just speaks to the fact that this situation is really, really urgent and dangerous.
Maybe you can
read
there. What those things mean.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So if you have green, which, by the way, we don't have green at all, it means a normal, good condition with cold morning. But what we have is from yellow, which means caution, fatigue possible with cold morning. And you can see that in upper parts. Extreme, that's caution, sunstroke, muscle cramps. Then orange is the deeper orange, means danger. And the red, which you can see some parts of the southwest, south, and the southeast as well, is showing that. That is the situation, Prof. I want you to talk us through what we can do, because obviously we can't have a conversation with the weather, but at least we can have a conversation with ourselves. What we can do to at least get by this very, very tricky period.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that this time, when we're experiencing this heat stress, that there is the issue with the national grid. And of course, Nigerians are going to suffer so much. And that is one of the reasons why, as an agency under the leadership of the DG, Professor Chasan Osike, who we are committed and determined to make sure that we provide, timely, reliable, forecast, for Nigerians. So what we can do, is to begin to seek heat-reducing behaviors. We must not expose ourselves to, high intensity of sunlight, like I've said earlier on. There's nothing we can do so much as it is now because it's before us. The only thing we can do is to not to expose ourselves, is to take precautionary measures, to a large extent, so that we don't get, the extreme aspect of it, which is heat stroke, as I noted earlier on. But for this, extreme heat, we have said it's going to persist for some time. And for us, we're observing it, every now, just 24/7. Our staff are on the field monitoring what, how it's going to look like. And we're going to continue to report to Nigerians.
Sorry,
to ensure that
would this take one more
we
week?
do not record casualties.
Is it like, when you say some more time?
Of course, it's a lot.
Pardon me, Prof, just quickly. When you say some more time, is that 1 week, 1 day, 1 month? Let us know so we can prepare ourselves.
At least in the next 1 week, because we have seen where, like in Gombe, getting up to above normal, above normal 5 degrees, in River State, above normal of 3 degrees, Where above normal of 4 degrees. So it's something serious. And so we are looking at in the next 1 week, we'll be observing it and we'll be reporting, to the public through, your media platforms. Yeah. So we'll continue to do that. Of course, it's a weather phenomenon. It changes abruptly, but we'll continue to monitor. It is not static. It may not be static, but changes from time to time, given the science behind this change, like I've noted in the beginning of my discussions.
All right, Prof. If we go back to that map, I want to go back to that map because we're already seeing extreme danger in some parts of the country, which, according to NIMET, demands people to take action. And one of the things that will be experienced is heat stroke or sunstroke, highly likely. Those are the terms that the professionals like you use. Now that those people are experiencing all of this, so let's step it down to the people that have maybe health condition. Is it that they no longer have to go out, or they shouldn't go out at a certain time of the day? And, just very specifics. Some other places are yellow, so it's a bit safe. But we're already in that particular danger zone in some part of the south, southwest, southeast, and even north central. What should people with some kind of medical condition do at this time? Should they begin to talk to HR to say, maybe you can excuse me from work, or I don't know, you guide the nation on what to do, because this is nature.
I have noted before now that those states that are affected, there's need for a state of emergency to be declared so that people can stay out of work within this period, especially when the sun is very high. Of course, with high temperature, cognitive development will be affected and productivity will be affected. There will be loss of concentration. And so within this period of 12, 1, 2, 3, people should be excused from duty. People should not walk under the sun within this time period. And they can come out in the morning, do whatever they need to do before 11, they are out. Then they can also come out between 4, 5, 6. But between 12, 1, 2, 3, everyone that is vulnerable must leave, should not expose themselves, to the sun, and that will reduce, water loss from the system. 2, people must take more water as I speak to you now. Of course, you also note that your rate of water consumption has increased. From time to time, you experience that your throat is drying up, your throat is drying up, and more water needs to be consumed. So everybody must consume water more than necessary. Of course, there are some persons that their system, because of how they were brought up, in the growing period and what they went through, they didn't take a lot of water. And this period is affecting them. Of course, we are aware, some mothers talk of baby-friendly, stuff, from the maternity, and all of that. So, but we are saying that should not be obeyed right now. Give the children water right now because they need water. The water and the breast alone will not be able to sustain them. And so that is 2 or 3. Again, people should also try to seek shelter in green areas, under the trees and all of that. And people should, stop activities that will make them lose so much water. There should be reduction of outdoor activities, so that you don't lose much water. And of course, if you go to the gym this morning, a lot of people are going to the gym to, work out, to sweat and all of that. We are saying that a lot of those activities should be reduced right now because the body system needs water. And of course, if you must go to the gym this morning to lose weight and to sweat it out, you must provide enough water to replenish the system. These are, some key things we must take into consideration immediately.
And lastly, Prof, perhaps you could also give us some form of education for those states where they are tagged extreme danger, heat stroke, sunstroke highly likely. In the case where some people inevitably suffer exhaustion, what form of aid should first responders be giving to them such that we can prevent loss of life?
State of emergency should be declared in those states because that is where we're tending to. And if a state of emergency is declared, then people should be excused from doing, certain extreme, carrying out certain extreme activities that will make them sweat. And for the responders, of course, there should be enough water. If we have water reticulation, infrastructure in our cities, I want to say that this is a period when water must be made available to all homes, if that is possible. And so we must begin to ensure that people, especially children, are very vulnerable. Their system is still very fragile. The elderly, should be given so much attention as we speak, as first responders, will want to get this information from us. So these are the people they should target first. The other bracket should be able to take care of themselves, getting the alert that we are sending out. But the elderly and the children must be, the category of persons that they must respond to immediately.
Prof, we must thank you so much for your insights. And with what is going on, we will be calling you a lot more, or maybe people from NIMET, because a lot of people don't understand what is going on, because all we do is just feel and experience these things. But when we need explanation, we have to come to you. But I don't think we're excited when you said we should hold on for another 1 week for this. There's no light, and water is expensive. Some people don't even have potable water and all of this. That's why Bukola was asking, what can people really do as quickly as possible to help themselves so that we don't have situations that will lead to the loss of lives. But we must thank you so much for your insight, for guiding us on all of this. We'll call on you as much as possible when necessary. Professor Vincent Welly is the Director of Weather Forecast Services at NIMET. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm always there to educate Nigerians. With the approval of my DG, I will continue to do this to ensure that Nigerians are properly educated and we will not have serious issues that will lead to casualties resulting from this heat stroke and heat stress.
Thank you so much, Prof. Well, this is not a professional advice. Maybe we can have our bath a lot more just to cool off. I don't know. But the heat is a lot. So whatever you want to do to help yourself, please do as guided or as directed by the authorities. But be as careful as possible. Guys, I don't know. Is there some, I'm sure we're looking for a way to say, okay, there's something we should have asked. But one of the things that crossed my mind, I didn't ask him that time, was these people that work at sites, construction sites,
Yeah.
what do they have to do now? Because they're inevitably
Exposed
to this heat
well,
every other moment.
one of the first few things, borrowing from what Prof is saying is, they should ensure that they're hydrated as often as possible. There must be an abundance of water. So contractors at site should, take this as express instruction from the professionals that water must be available at site for their, laborers. It's very, very instructive because they're doing high capacity work, a lot of heavy lifting, so they must be hydrated.
Absolutely. It's just worth reiterating that air temperature is hitting over 41 degrees Celsius over the north and 39 degrees over the south. And it's important to have that at the back of our minds. We don't usually look at weather forecasts in Nigeria. You just go out and then it starts raining and you find a place to hide or stuff. But it's important to really get this at the back of our minds. So I take it away from the back, put it in front of your mind. So you don't forget, okay, stay hydrated, limit your workout. We need you to be here for the good of our nation. So please let us pay attention to that.
So let's jump to some of the things that people have been talking about. You've been feeling the heat and you've been speaking on social media. Excuse me. This is coming from a Proco doctor who has been our guest, by the way.
Yeah.
I say, please pay attention if you're finding yourself getting dizzy, if you're easily tired, headaches, sweating too much, or even muscle cramps. It might be signs of heat exhaustion or heat stroke that happens when your body cannot contain or maintain a cooler temperature because the weather is too hot. The other day I was having a funny headache. Perhaps, remember I told you, we were talking on the phone.
So it was the heat, right?
I don't know what it was, but I was having this funny headache for maybe 3 hours. Like, if I shake my head, it's there. Like,
don't worry,
is it heat
Jeffrey,
stroke or heat
Jeffrey,
wave?
we got you covered with lots of water. Make sure you're here again
And
tomorrow.
I drink a lot of water, by the way. I drink a lot of water.
So yeah,
Carry
just
it,
like this young man, just down as much water as you can as possible.
This one is from Chinwell, and Chinwell says, not having light at night during this heat wave is just brutal. That's it from Chinwell. Next one is from Ifunaya.
Yeah, this is a miracle. Or Miracel AA on X says, my mom's sister called me and asked if I'm experiencing this excessive heat in school. I mean, how could I explain that mine is times 2? Miracel or Miracella says on X. Yeah, I know.
There's a lot to talk about, so keep them coming on X. Of course, we'll take it as much as possible, but the central theme here is keep safe. The authorities have explained to us what is going on. Be careful out there. But we're going to switch gears now. We're going to take this very short break, and we switch gears to that very exciting conversation about your hair. Maybe heats. We'll talk about heats, juxtaposing with hair and all of that. Let's see how that plays out. Our guest is right here with us. We'll be back after this break. Join us again.